Well, welcome back to week 2 of our prosperity series, Thriving in the Overflow, as we shift our thinking from lack and limitation to more than enough. Let's say that together again, like we did last week. More than enough. Doesn't that feel good? Yeah. We're going to discover what some of our limiting beliefs might be and explore ways that we can build and strengthen our inner prosperity awareness. My message today is living in the overflow, developing the consciousness of more than enough within. Within. Because we know all of this starts from the inside out. So we've got to work on the inside before we can start manifesting out here. And that's a key shift in thinking and prosperity principles. A lot of times we want to pray to have it all come in out here, but in reality, we've got to work it in here first. We've got to work it in here first. If you were with us last month, we talked about the Kabbalion and the ancient Egyptian Hermetic principles. And the second principle is as within, so without, as above, so below. In the science of mind, we call this the principle of correspondence. Ernest Holmes is the author of The Science of Mind, and he says the law of correspondence works from the belief to the thing, from thought to thing. If we believe we shall have only a little good will come into our experience. The demonstration we make corresponds with our ability to provide a mental equivalent or equal or picture of our desire. What we experience in our lives corresponds to what we believe is possible. What we experience in our lives corresponds to what we believe is possible. A lot of us have what I call governors. It can only be this good. It can only be this much. Maybe it's our comfort zone, but we have this limitation of how much is enough. And so this month we're working on expanding that, raising that bar a bit to open up to the greater good available to us as the good that God is. It circulates and flows automatically around us. So this morning, I want to explore what it is that we're experiencing and see if we can trace that to what we are consciously or maybe unconsciously thinking and believing. You up for that? When life seems to hand us lemons, it's easy to blame, isn't it? Ugh, it's their fault. That happened. Or maybe we call it fate. I'm unlucky. Maybe we call it karma rather than just the action of the law. Now, that can be hard to believe. Well, that means I've got some of this nonsense in my consciousness someplace. But I'm not thinking that way. I'm not thinking about those bad things. Not me. It's just fate. It's karma. These are opportunities. As we used to say in ministerial school, another opportunity for growth. Oh boy. But when we can start to look at them that way, not as we're being punished in some way, not that it's some horrible, awful thing, but something, sometimes if we can just look and go, okay, this is an opportunity for inner reflection, for me to clean out perhaps some more of those old ideas that no longer serve me. So we can look at it as an opportunity. We have an opportunity to grow through it. I mean, if we never got challenged in our lives, we'd stay the same as we always were. The challenges are what helps us to grow. I want to add here that we do not blame ourselves for the things that happen to us and our beliefs and what's in your consciousness and that kind of nonsense. That's not what we do. Every belief we hold either serves us or has served us in some capacity in our lives. The problem is when we get stagnated and stay put and don't continue to grow. When I was a small child, I was taught things like money doesn't grow on trees. We don't have enough. There's not any extra. Don't even ask. My mother used to actually say that. We'd get out of the car and she'd look at me and she'd say, "There is no extra. We don't have anything. Don't even ask. Don't even ask. Turn off the lights. We don't have stock in the power company. We're going to burn wood this year instead of coal because wood is cheaper." Well, it was a awful lot more inconvenient because wood just burns out, whereas coal you can bank and it will hold a fire. These are the ideas that my parents had and shared with us, and I embodied as a child. I believed them to be gospel truth. That's how life was. It was my experience of life. I knew nothing else. It was my parents. I trusted them. Okay, that's life. Got it. Later in life, ideas about work began to come forward, get embedded in my consciousness. I was told things like, you can only make so much money. You can only have so much success. You can only rise so far. And you got to work hard and long hours. And you really need to worry every month whether your income is going to be enough to pay your bills. That's life. And that's exactly what outpictured me for years and years and years as an adult working. And my friends did it that way. I did it that way. It kept happening. It kept proving itself to be true. So it must be true, right? Just enough. No extras. Don't even ask. I had a just enough life, just enough income, just enough success, just enough expenses, just enough. Until I discovered the science of mind. And I began to learn and understand these prosperity principles and the power that I had within, the power of my own mind. And I began to question the truths with a small t, that I had been living. And I began the journey of transformation that continues today, 25 years later, peeling back those layers and layers and layers of belief that I have absorbed over this wonderful long life of mine. I don't blame my folks. I don't blame them in any way, shape, or form for their scarcity consciousness, for the way that they raised us. They did the best they could. That's all they knew. Both of them were products of the Great Depression. And both of their families lost very successful businesses during that time. My mother's parents had a sawmill operation, and my father's parents' family had a logging business. Both very successful, and they lost both of those during the Depression. And it became a matter of survival for those families. And it was very impactful to the children of those families because are there enough beans in the pot to feed all the kids? That's how basic it got to. They survived, and they taught us how to survive. I learned how to survive. So, what childhood experiences did you have that you brought forward into your life that still may linger in your subconscious? I still have those things. I've shared before. I still turn off all the lights in the house when I'm not in the room. The lights are off. I don't leave lights on. Turn them off. Don't leave the TV on if I'm not in the room. Things like that. It's just part of that upbringing that I've got that I do. So what's going on with you? What's within you? Where do you see those things in you that have impacted your prosperity consciousness that may or may not serve you now, today? The good news is, because we are here, because we are studying these principles, we have a choice to do life differently. We can make the choices to do it differently, to break through and let go of the limitations that we've shackled ourselves with. Because that's all we've done, is we've shackled ourselves with those old beliefs. How can we begin to remove those and let God flow through? Let the good flow. Ernest reminds us we cannot have more in life than we have in consciousness. That's a powerful quote. We cannot have more in life than we can have in consciousness. What is in there? What's in your consciousness? What are the limitations that you've set for yourself? What are those beliefs reflecting back to you in your life today? Are you experiencing abundance, good health, loving relationships, creative self expression? Or is there something else? Or are you experiencing those things to the maximum? This series is about shifting that something that lurks in the shadows of our subconscious that it filters through things we may not even be aware of. I'm surprised all the time at stuff that pops up and I go, oh my gosh, I'm my mother. Silly little things. Silly little things that pop up, but they're still there and they still run me if I don't catch them. Remember, we've got that reticular activating system we talked about last night, that last week, rather, that link between our subconscious and our conscious mind in the back of our heads. We've all got them. We learned about it. We learned that our spiritual practices and principles and that scientific little thing, biological thing, can help us to transform and change the subconscious through this process, moving us to more peace and more prosperity. I've been reading a lot of Neville Goddard lately. Neville's one of my other favorite teachers. And he says if our concept of ourselves were different, everything in our world would be different. If our concept of ourselves were different, everything in our world would be different. What's your concept of yourself? How do you see yourself? What do you perceive yourself to be? What thoughts are in your mind when you look at your finances, when you do your budget or pay your bills? What's in your mind and as you are thinking about or moving through relationships, friendships? Do you complain about your friends and how they've got idiosyncrasies in what they said or did? Or do you embrace that? Do you manage and maintain those relationships? That law of correspondence that we talked about, what we believe will come into our experience. So are we pushing things away or are we pulling things in? All this stuff combines to make up our prosperity awareness, our prosperity consciousness. And if it's not where you want it to be, then we can play in there. We can change some things and change that prosperity awareness. Neville wrote a lot and he spoke a lot, and a lot of his things come out as little essays, 3 or 4 or 5 pages, just really brief, but then they compiled a bunch of them into books. And one of his books is The Power of Awareness, and I'm enjoying that right now. In it, he talks about renewing our minds. That idea comes from the Bible in Romans, where it says, be transformed by the renewing of your mind. I call it rewiring our brains. And science tells us we can do this because of the plasticity of our brain. We can learn, and we can change, and we can grow. Neville suggests that the first step to rewiring our minds is desire. Is desire. We have to have a desire for things to be different so that we can begin that rewiring process. I think of it like cutting a new road. Y'all know I'm in development, and we buy raw land, and periodically we have to go in and cut a road. There's no road in the land, and the bulldozer comes in and just cuts a new path. And I think of that as rewiring the brain. We've got these neural pathways already. We've got to cut a new one. We've got to cut a new one and abandon those old ones that no longer serve us. This step of desire, though, I think also includes a willingness on our part to make the change. Sometimes it's okay as it is, not worth the effort to make the change. Anybody else ever felt that way? Good enough, right? Instead of more than enough, we accept good enough. So I'm going to suggest you take a look at that. All right, confession time. I've gotten hooked on the reruns of Nashville. It's a TV series that came out, I think, I know, came out 10 years ago. And I didn't watch it then, but I've gotten hooked on it. It's on Netflix, so I can binge it, which is even worse. But I love it because the characters in this are all demonstrating on screen all this stuff we talk about, all of these problems we talk about working through. And it's interesting to watch how they move through them and don't move through them and bump into each other and all the things that happen. Seems that everybody there's got a dream to be in the music business. And one of the main characters shows up with her boyfriend who wants to be a lead singer in a band. And she's there to support him. They moved down Mississippi or someplace. And she's working as a waitress, but she writes poetry. She loves writing poetry. She writes some beautiful stuff. And it gets discovered by somebody, and they say, "This would make great song lyrics. Are you a songwriter?" And she says, "No." I said, "Well, I think you could be. Let's put it to some music." So they did, and voila, she's now a songwriter. And then they find out she's got this really sweet voice. And they say, "Oh my gosh, you're also a singer. Let's put you on stage in front of the big audience and you'll be a star." And so she did until she melted down into a puddle on stage one night because it wasn't her desire. It wasn't her dream. Her dream was to just write her poetry, be a waitress, and support her boyfriend. And now here all of a sudden she's in the spotlight, she's on stage, and she wasn't ready for it. It wasn't her dream. She hadn't mentally moved into it yet, is all I'll say. And that's the second step to making the future a present reality for us. Because a lot of people get caught up in this idea of, okay, you have to have your desire and then you have to be it right now. You have to live in it right now. How do I do that when right now I've got an empty bank account, I've got no friends, I don't have a relationship, I'm not successful in my job? How can I possibly believe all this good stuff I want coming? It's not here. That's a lie. Well, that is what is reality. That's the, we acknowledge, okay, this is what's here, but you know what? That's not for me. So this is for me. And I create that picture, that vision, that desire of what I do want. And I skip over all the stuff in the middle about how I'm going to get it. Because, folks, if we knew how to get it, we'd have it. We don't know how to do it, which is why we're dealing with all this stuff. So we let that go of how to get it and we go over there and we park in having it. We park our brain, our imagination, everything in having it, experiencing that. If it was to be on stage, it is imagining ourselves in the wings, hearing the audience, maybe hearing our name chanted by the audience. And we come out and we hear our heels clicking across the floor and we step into the spotlight and we see all the people. We know what the people in the front row are wearing. We feel the microphone in our hand. We feel the band behind us ready to go. And we take that first breath to open our voice. We imagine that on a regular basis until we feel it. We believe it so strongly that the day it happens, we're not nervous. We're not afraid. We're just so thrilled to have this experience again. That's how we move ourselves there. That's how we move ourselves in our businesses. If our businesses are in the red and we want to see it in the black, we want to see it in the positive, we want to see profits, then we envision that process. What does it look like when I see my monthly, quarterly, and annual statements being in the black? What am I doing with those additional dollars? How am I growing my company? How am I producing additional widgets? What am I delivering in my services? Feel all of those things over there, not how. We don't know how. We've proven that. We live over there in the having of it. That's how we shift our consciousness and expand our prosperity awareness, is by living in the prosperity that we're calling into our lives. When we're rewiring our minds, we are creating those neural pathways. We're letting go of all of this stuff that we know doesn't work, right? We've proven that it doesn't work. So we're letting that go and we're building a pathway to that over there that we seek. That's what we're doing it. We're using our imagination to visualize, to feel the experience of what we're calling forth. And the important thing is to put ourselves in it. So many times we'll visualize it, but we forget to put us in it. And that's the key. We've got to be a part of it. How does it feel? What is it? Does it have a smell? Are there colors, temperature? And how are you showing up in it? Whatever your desire might be today, use your imagination, that powerful, powerful imagination, to visualize it in detail so that you become the person, the persona, and the personality that has that is living that. So much so that you just assume that it's already true. Now, we've all heard the thing about assume, making an ass out of you and me, right? Because that's how you spell it. But what does it mean to assume? Assumptions are defined as ideas accepted as fact without proof. Without proof. Let's talk about it in the spiritual realm. Accepting as true without proof sounds like faith. Where are you putting your faith? Are you putting your faith in the good? Are you putting your faith in the negative? What assumptions do you have about life? Do you realize that everything that you assume about life that you think is true is not true for everybody else? Our assumptions act like little mental autopilots in our brain. We assume when we turn on the light switch, the lights are going to come on. We don't think about it. We assume when we're driving on the freeway, everybody's going to stay in their lane until somebody starts wiggling and we go on alert. But most of the time, you're not thinking about, are all 5 of those people going to stay in that lane? We're just not. We're assuming that's going to happen. We assume that our income is either going to be enough or not going to be enough. What's your assumption each month? Is it enough? Is it not enough? Is it more than enough? What about your expenses? Are they going up? Are they going down? What about those lab tests and medical things that we're going through? What's our assumption? Is it confirmation of my good health? Or is it ruh-roh, something's going on? What are you assuming? And are your assumptions serving your highest good? This is really important because assumptions mean we believe it without proof. We believe it without proof. If they're not serving us today, it may be time to consider changing some of those assumptions so that you can begin to live from the overflow within you and not sabotage yourself by these negative assumptions. For me, I usually realize that my assumptions are making an arse out of me when I end up in fear. And I have discovered, because I've been working on this week, I have discovered I do it when I futurize, when I start looking about not having enough or not being enough somewhere in the future, 30 days, 3 years, whatever. And I catch myself, and usually I'll laugh, and then I flip it around and I make an affirmation and I affirm that new truth, that new neural pathway, until I remember God is my source in all things. Even the future, especially the future. God is my source. Flip it around. Prosperity does not begin in our bank accounts. It begins in consciousness. It begins within us. Until we shift what we think about, what we believe about, what actions we take around our prosperity, we will continue to be who we are. We'll continue to do what we do, and we'll continue to have what we have. If you're ready to break out of that, if you're ready to make a change, the work is inside. The work is inside. So let's look at some spiritual practices for this week to get us started. The first one, I want us to look at assumptions. And I'm going to invite you to focus your attention. What we focus on expands. Focus your attention this week on assumptions, your own and other people's. And write down as many as you discover. Just write them all down. And at the end of the week, notice any ahas that may come up, anything that you realized about your own assumptions, other people's assumptions, and then write an affirmation for yourself if you've got some negative assumptions that no longer serve you, and begin to turn those around and shift them. Secondly, we're going to continue our 40 days to prosperity journal writing. I loved that this week. A couple of the days really stopped me, and I had to spend a lot of time with it, which was good. And I really enjoyed it. If you don't have a copy, we've got some copies left on the front table this morning. And committing to our Money Finders program. I know Penny said she had a good week. I had a good week. I hope everybody that's playing along this month had a good week. It's been a lot of fun. And if you haven't participated, I invite you to do so. And grab your green envelope. I write down everything that happens during the week and put my amount that I received. And then I tithe 10% of that here. And this idea of focusing all week is what's keeping it going. And as Penny said earlier, it makes it fun. It makes it fun to just look for and watch for the extra good that's coming to us throughout our days and weeks. Funny thing, as I said, good comes for us. I had lunch with Daniel on Friday, and we came out, and I said, "Oh, well, that's interesting. We both got front door parking." I mean, when I pulled in, I didn't realize his car was next to me. I was like, "Oh, there's front row parking. Cool." And we came out, and he's right beside of me. And it's like, we must be living right. Must be living right. So good happens for us. Good happens for us. And noticing things like that, noticing our good, that's what keeps it going. So we'll close this morning with a quote from Neville Goddard, who says, "Everything depends on your attitude towards yourself. That which you will not affirm as true of yourself can never be realized by you. For that attitude alone is the necessary condition by which you realize your goal." This week, affirm your good. Claim it for yourself. Claim it as true for you. And so it is. I'll open it for questions if anybody has any this morning about our practices, assuming anything. No? All right. Well, let's anchor this in prayer this morning. Would you join me? So as we go within, we recognize that God is our source, the source and substance of all that is in existence and ever has been, ever will be. It is the one substance that from which all comes. We see its love throughout the universe, throughout our lives, throughout nature, throughout everything. It is infinite love. It is peace and prosperity. It is wisdom and grace. It is intelligence and wisdom. It is divine right action and order. And all of that is present right here now in each one of us. Each one of us as expressions, individualized and unique of it. We are those things that God is. We are that intelligence and wisdom. We are that perfect health and wholeness, that love and prosperity. And so as I know this unity that we are, I speak my word for and about each of us this morning, knowing that as each of us embraces this idea of more than enough, that our awareness of prosperity and the good of God flowing to and through us expands. We expand, our awareness expands, and our prosperity and our joy and our happiness and our health and our relationships and our creativity, our lives expand as the good seeks us out to bring forward gifts and delights into our lives and through our lives. And that we just open to receive as grateful receivers and circulate that good back out to and through the world. For we are all a part of the system, of the process of God's circulation plan. I bless our center, Scottsdale Center for Spiritual Living, knowing that it is a divine idea in the mind of God and that it is abundantly sourced of this good, that it is also of that substance that is the divine, and that it is prospered with both members and congregants and visitors and guests and folks that join us both in person and online, and that it is abundantly prospered in all of its wealth and resources, its volunteers. We are just so blessed to be together and celebrating our community. And so it is with a heart filled with gratitude and joy, thanksgiving, that I just receive this and release it into the action and activity of law, knowing that it is already done, it is so. And we affirm this truth together by saying, and so it is.